Call the 6 p.m. legislative session of the Spokane City Council to order. If you'd all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ms. Pfister, you please do roll call.
Council President Stuckert.
Present.
Councilmember Biggs.
Present.
Councilmember Fagan.
Present.
Councilmember Kinnear.
Present.
Councilmember Stratton.
Present.
Councilmember Waldrop.
Present.
Let the record reflect that Councilmember Mumm is absent.
And we have one proclamation. Councilmember Kinnear.
Thank you. Could we have Zool Bailey please come down? We are so fortunate to have a preeminent musician here with us tonight. I'm going to read this, and then I understand you're going to play a little something for us. Whereas the Northwest Bach Festival will be comprised of 13 days of exciting concerts and musical events featuring acclaimed guest artists performing in landmark venues in Spokane, and whereas the Northwest Bach Festival has been presenting outstanding concerts featuring internationally acclaimed artists in Spokane for 38 years, and whereas the Northwest Bach Festival is proud to be part of the dynamic arts community in Spokane, bringing ticket buyers from as far away as Switzerland. Now, therefore, I, David A. Condon, Mayor of the City of Spokane, on behalf of the citizens of Spokane, do hereby proclaim February 23rd through March 6th, 2016, as Northwest Bach Festival.
It's a great pleasure to be the artistic director of the Bach Festival. I've been doing this for several years now, and to be part of your community and to try to bring everyone together through music is quite a thrill. Not only do we give concerts, as she was speaking about, but we give great education through music in both hospitals, hospices, intensive care units, schools, libraries. We are everywhere throughout most of the year. And so, as the artistic director and as a cellist, I'd like to serenade you for a few minutes and thank the city of Spokane for this wonderful honor.
All right, we should just end on that note. That was the best proclamation ever. We have one city report, which is we have members of the Salary Review Commission here. Thank you for being here, and I think you're going to make an announcement.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Great. Nice to see you again. My name's Christy Jeffers. I'm a member of the Salary Review Commission, and this is our chair, Bob Beaumier. We have a public notice I'd like to read for the record, and then Bob has a couple things to say. Next Thursday, February 25th, from 3 to 4 p.m., City Hall, Conference Room, Lower Level A. Have you ever wondered who sets the salaries of your elected officials for the City of Spokane? Ever wanted to express an opinion about it? Now's your chance. Our City Council President's salary is $57,200 per year, and the City Council member's salary is $31,200 per year. These amounts were set in 2014 and exclude other compensations such as medical and retirement benefits. It is time now for the City of Spokane Salary Review Commission to decide whether to raise, lower, or keep the current salaries. We are an independent body of 5 people who serve as volunteers for a 4-year term. We may not be discharged by anyone except for things like misconduct or neglect of duty. We're the sole judges on this question, and our decision is final with the exception of a referendum. We would like public input. The Salary Review Commission public hearing for public input next Thursday, February 25th, 2016, from 3 to 4 p.m. in Conference Room Lower Level A, located in City Hall, right here, and we urge anyone interested in this issue to attend and voice their opinion. We'd really like some help making this decision.
We would indeed. Yeah, thank you very much, Christy. And I wanted to add that in past years, we've had very thin attendance, and this, it happens on things. And I recognize that the actual hearing is a 1-hour period, but you can write to the Salary Review Commission if you want. And we do have a page on the City of Spokane webpage. It's got Facebook, it's got Twitter, and I'm not sure all the social media titles. But if you do want to make a comment on any of those avenues, or if you'd like to send an email, that information is on the webpage. And also, I will just publicly mention that Heather Lowe, the Human Resources Director, is our staff support for this issue. And so you can send her an email. And her email is hlwoe@spokanecity.org. And so any of you that would rather send an email, please send it to her, Attention Salary Review Committee. If you want to look on our webpage, you can also see avenues to reach us through Facebook or other social media. And it's funny how things happen. All of a sudden something changes and people don't. Wait a minute, do you hear something? Oh my God, it's a cloudburst out there. Do you hear that?
I do.
Oh my goodness, and it just snuck up on me. Don't let the Salary Review Commission meeting sneak up on you. If you have an opinion, now is your chance. We need your help, folks. Thank you.
Thank you. Committee reports. First one, Councilmember Waldorf, Public Works.
Thank you, Council President. We had 4 main topics of our agenda today. First was an update that we may have to do here in the next month to our retail water service area. And the council adopted a new retail water service area where we deliver water inside and outside the city. And there are some parcels that we missed in that process, so we'll be looking at adding those into our water system map. We had a long conversation and presentation about the next level of treatment at the wastewater treatment facility. As you know, this is one of the major upgrades we're doing to ensure we have clean water going into the Spokane River and reducing as many of the contaminants as we can as it goes through our waste treatment facility before it goes back into the Spokane River. So this is a third level of treatment. It's over $200 million to upgrade our treatment plant. It hasn't been upgraded for about 40 years. So we have a lot to discuss with our engineers out at the plant. We have a contractor that's been hired, a general contractor, to help us in this process. And we went through our schedule of decisions that we're going to have to make this year on that issue. We also discussed some changes at the state level, potentially in Olympia this session, with some funds that come to us for wastewater and, stormwater grants to help us get contaminants out of the river. So kind of the same conversation. There may be some cuts to some of that funding, so we're watching that in Olympia and making sure we can keep those grants that we've received here at the city. And then finally, I just wanted to show you may be seeing this coming out in the Inlander soon. It's a new document from the city called Link Spokane, and it talks about all the projects that we've been doing to integrate stormwater treatment and road improvements throughout the city, and making sure whenever we do any projects that we're looking at all the impacts to all the modes of transportation as well as our river. So keep a lookout for the new Link Spokane information. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Waldorf. And did either you or Councilmember Kinnear want to talk about the Smart Growth Conference that you went to?
I didn't go. She didn't go.
I thought that was me.
No, it was
Councilmember Stratton.
Councilmember Stratton and I.
And Councilmember Mumm.
And
See, the
Councilmember
office
Mumm,
was-
yes. And we learned a great deal. I knew a lot about planning, I thought, and then we went to the conference and expanded our knowledge, hoping to bring that back in the way of legislation at some point. So thank you for letting us go, Council President.
And I would just say that I spent a good deal of time in sessions relating to tiny houses and low-income housing and how to expand low-income housing opportunities in the community. They're doing some great things over in Seattle, so I was able to talk to a Seattle councilwoman who kind of spearheaded what they're doing in Seattle as far as areas for tiny houses, and it was fascinating, and I'm hoping that with that knowledge we can move forward with some of the organizations in town that are just now starting to look at tiny houses and discuss them and talk about where we want to start to put them.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Fagan.
Can I have a point of information, 20 seconds, Council President?
You bet.
All right, thank you. The Chief Gary Park neighborhood is working with the City of Spokane to develop a plan for their neighborhood's future. There is scheduled this coming Wednesday, February 24th, starting at 6 p.m. at Stevens Elementary School, located at 1717 East Cinto Avenue. Public is invited to this. If you live, work, and play in the Chief Gary Park neighborhood, which would basically be the Spokane Community College area, Stevens Elementary, the area around Napa and Trent, as well as the residential area out there by Feltz Field, you are all invited. You would be helping the Chief Gary Park neighborhood plan for things like public safety, connectivity, pedestrian and bike access, transportation, land uses, and et cetera. Children's activities will be provided. So I guess there will be a little bit of babysitting on hand that ought to give all of the adults there an opportunity to mingle and share ideas. Once again, that'll be this Wednesday, February 24th, Stevens Elementary, starting at 6 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you. And with that, we'll go to the open forum. And before we start, there is a resolution on next week's agenda for the Trans-Pacific Partnership, which is in front of Congress. There are a group of people here, if you guys all want to just stand, because I know I told you couldn't testify because it's on our agenda, but there's such a large group, I thought I'd recognize you. Thank you for being here tonight and appreciate it. See you next week. And with that, we'll go to open forum, and just a reminder, both Robert's rules say that unless you're a member of this body, you cannot do a point of order, and council rules say that you will not speak or be recognized unless recognized by the chair. And with that, we'll go to first open public forum speaker, Mr. Boomer.
Good evening to you. I'm here to discuss my name is Bill Boomer. I own Bill's Friendly Rides, a taxi company in Spokane. I'm the spokesman for the Spokane Taxi Association. I'd like to welcome the 2 new council members here. I don't think you've had to hear my spiel yet, but here I go. I'm here to discuss Uber and Lyft. And the big thing about them is that they're not following any of the rules or regulations of their contracts. They have a lot of illegal activity. The state RCNs, RCWs state that they have to follow the municipal codes. They are not doing that. Right now, we have a problem with Uber and Lyft is a lot of their old drivers have quit. So now they've been running their TV ads as Uber Taxi, saying anybody can drive for them that has a driver's license. Well, that's not quite correct. So now they're down on Division Street again, parked in the fast-moving lane with their emergency flasher lights on, obstructing traffic and obstructing the legal taxis to do their job. And they do no criminal history reports on their drivers that are sufficient. If you'll notice what happened in Michigan, the Uber driver murdered 6 people while he was working. In between his murders, he was picking people up and giving them rides. I think that's really getting to the point where we need to look at them a little closer. I'm not saying they don't have a right to compete in the Spokane area, but they need to be going through the City of Spokane's for hire department where their drivers are going through the watch program so that we know that we're getting safe drivers on the street. We've got an Uber driver breaking a lady's jaw. We got an Uber driver in San Francisco caught as a pedophile driving. There was a gentleman in Connecticut on a rape charge driving for Uber, raped a girl in the back of his car. These things need to be stopped for the public safety. Now, in January, put these on all the council members' desk. It says right here, our fares are this amount. So they are not a TNC when they're stating that they have fares. That makes them a taxi. That makes them where they have to follow all the rules and regulations of a taxi. That means you have to have a meter in your car. You can't tell somebody, I'm going to give you a ride and I'm charging you this much without telling them why or what you're doing. So I believe that they're very much in violation there. I believe, as I checked the other day on the contracts, the only person's name on the contract is Council President Stuckert. Uber and Lyft have not signed their contracts. I may be wrong on that, but my understanding is they're refusing to. So they're operating, I mean, they're like the wild dog on the street, and it's getting pretty ridiculous. We're all paying our fees. Our drivers are paying $400 for the for-hire license, and they've got to compete with these people. So I'm sorry, I had more, but I got to go. My 3 minutes are up.
Thanks,
I'm hoping
Mr.
the
Boomer.
council will help.
Tim Ben? Mr. Boomer, I was too busy writing stuff down.
Thank you, Council. Wanted to address a public safety issue that's been brought up before in my neighborhood. Has to do with the flashing school lights. Pretty much everywhere in town we have them. Some schools have them several blocks away. Cooper Elementary in the Minnehaha neighborhood has no flashing lights, and I live across the street from the school. It's located on Freya and Euclid. And we've experienced an extreme amount of traffic due to the north-south freeway. So there's been proposals to add those lights, so I hope that you would support those. Also, there's been District 1 on the CTAB board is not getting represented. So I did put an application for that months ago, and I hope you take that up. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Ben. Henry Valder?
A property that I had a while back that I gave up or was made to leave. It's finally been cleaned up and place my dog's buried. And I want to say that because it's because of code enforcement that it's finally been cleaned up. And it's called the Problem House, and it has been made to look like it was my fault. And I'm here tonight to say that he was a problem landlord before I moved in. He was a problem landlord after. The record shows that. Why people in my position have to wait so long for justice. Now I'd like to reflect on AutoZone for a minute. Moment of silence. Maybe, and I would like to thank this council for our newest member to City Council. If you had listened to him as a body, both the Valley and the City of Spokane, years ago, you would have saved lives. You would have saved the city money. Tonight, in particular, I want to bring up the laws against the homeless. I hope that you listen to his briefs, and I hope that the people get a chance to, and I suggest the open forum that we have now through community-minded television. I believe that Councilwoman Strader is going to put that on her website. It started the 11th. It's 10 minutes. And the questions that we will address will hopefully help us in different avenues. My particular segment, it's going to be the month in review. And this month it's going to start with ways that I believe we can fix our broken transit system, one that costs us millions and trillions of dollars a year when they go by us without advertisement, when there's no seats for our riders to sit on that could be a benefit, a resource coming in, therefore allowing the taxpayers a better break on services instead of limiting them when our workers and our employees do that. So I hope that you would connect with that in the Veterans Garage, because I believe that we could build small houses on the buses instead of sending them to the auction where, as a rule, you get $1,500 on a $100,000 bus. And I think these are the things, with your help, that we can bring out through this 10 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Valder. And with that, we'll move to the legislative agenda. We have one emergency budget ordinance, Ms. Pfister.
Ordinance number C-35-364, amending ordinance number C-35-322, passed by the City Council November 23, 2015, and entitled, an ordinance adopting the annual budget of the City of Spokane for 2016, making appropriations to various funds, departments, and programs of the City of Spokane government for the fiscal year ending December 31, 2016, and providing it shall take effect immediately upon passage, and declared an emergency, and appropriating funds in IT fund from temp seasonal $132,250 to various accounts, same amount. This action creates a senior information security analyst position in the IT department effective February 29, 2016.
And I do not have any public testimony signed up. Councilman Fagan, you asked the question at briefing today, how many attacks do we get every?
Oh, you bet. And the answer to that was at least 2 to 4 per second. So when you multiply that in a 24-hour time frame, we're talking about at least a couple of 100,000 attempts within a 24-hour period that, those folks that are out there with their malware, their viruses, their other malicious type programs, I could definitely be supporting this security analyst just by virtue of that.
Excellent. Anybody else? Prepare to vote? Passes 6-0. And with that, I think we want to take ordinance C-35-366, which is an emergency ordinance, and resolution 0021. Can you read those both together?
Yes. Ordinance C-35-366, imposing additional regular property tax levies for emergency medical services for the years 2017 through 2022, and submitting the proposition to a special municipal election to be held on April 26, 2016, and declaring an emergency. And Resolution 2016-21, requesting the Spokane County Auditor to hold a special election on April 26, 2016, to submit a proposition regarding additional regular property tax levies for emergency medical services for the years 2017 through 2022 to the electors of the City of Spokane, and declaring an emergency.
Chief Williams, with that, I'll let you take it away. Thanks for coming down here tonight.
Thank you, Council President, members of council. It's hard to believe that it's been 6 years since the last EMS levy was before the voters, and it will expire, the current levy will expire at the end of this year. So the request before you is to place this measure on the April 26th ballot. It would be a special election. And just as a reminder, the reason we have traditionally done it in April is we have a city ordinance that says if we have a ballot measure that fails, we have to have at least 6 months between that measure before we can put it back on the ballot. And because the importance that this plays in city services, that is why we have traditionally run it in April. So with that, just to give you a quick overview, as I mentioned, the proposal is to put it on the 26th of April ballot. This would be a special election. As a reminder, this is a renewal. This is not a new levy. You know, but many of the citizens may not know, that emergency medical services provided by the fire department is one of the primary services that we respond to on calls each and every day. Last year, 87% of our calls were medical calls in nature if you include automobile accidents. If you take the automobile accidents away, it runs right at 80%. That is 93 calls per day on an average that we respond to help citizens with medical problems. This just shows you a quick advancement of what's gone on with medical incidents over the last 25 to 30 years. You can see that the blue or the upper portion of this graph represents the increase in medical calls. Fire calls, thank goodness, have stabilized over the years, primarily because of the advent of modern codes, building codes and fire codes. Yet our nation has gotten older. We've had challenges with health care. We've had challenges with medical coverage. And emergency medical services is really the key to why people call 911 and need help in their time of need. The levy renewal would be at the same rate as current. The state law has a maximum of 50 cents per 1,000 of assessed property value. That means that no more than that 50 cents per $1,000 could be levied on any property. Again, it would be for 6 years. The law allows you can do for 6 years, 10 years, or in perpetuity. We believe and have followed over the past to go every 6 years to give the voters a say in whether to continue the levy or not to continue the levy. The levy would support existing service with the goal of expanding ALS. Right now, and I'll show you in just a minute, are at all 15 of our 16 stations, and our goal is to get the final station with the next levy. Just as a reminder that this is not something new, the levies have been before the voters since 1980s. And in 1980, it was at 25 cents, and 86, 25 cents per thousand. Then in 92, it went to 50 cents per thousand, primarily because of the increase in EMS calls and the services that we provide to the citizens. So for a property tax, and people want to know what it would cost. For a $100,000 home, it's $50 per year, or approximately $4.17 per month. For a $200,000 home, $100 a year, or $8.33 a month. And again, citizens are paying that now, so it would not be in addition to what they're paying. And it generates about $8 million per year. Oops. Since the last time that this went before the voters, the state law has changed. It used to be that an EMS levy required a 60% vote of the people. The legislature changed the law and said if you have an uninterrupted levy, which is what we have, then all it requires is a simple majority plus one. So it requires a 50% plus one vote to be passed. It no longer requires a validation number of people to go to the vote. It only, for those who vote, is all that's needed for the 50 plus one. So those changes were made by the state legislature a couple of years ago. The expenses well exceed the revenue that comes in from a standpoint of the services that we provide. The EMS levy primarily pays for advanced life support or paramedic level services. It helps pay for other medical services as well. It's primarily for allowing us to have paramedics in the station to respond to medical emergencies. And you can see the breakdown. Most of that goes towards our paramedics and EMTs. We have M&O expenses as well as a small amount of capital equipment. Just kind of for a reminder of the levels of service, in the city of Spokane, we have 16 fire stations. We have EMTs at all of those fire stations. All 16 fire stations have EMTs. Of our approximately 300 operations personnel, 218 of those are EMTs, and they can do the skills such as patient assessment, CPR, defibrillation, splinting, oxygen administration, etc. And then our paramedics, the station that circles Station 8 over on the east side of town is the only station that currently does not have paramedics, and it's our goal to have paramedics in that station within the next 12 to 24 months. You can see our paramedics operate from 15 stations on 15 units. We have 80 paramedics, and they can do much more. They are, in essence, can do many of the skills that are done in an emergency room. So they can have, of course, patient assessment. They can put on 12 lead EKGs and interpret those. They can administer medications. They can insert for advanced airway management plus other skills as well. So they're very, very technically competent and have high regards by the emergency physicians in this community. Just to give you a quick look at one critical aspect of emergency medical, let's talk for a minute about cardiac. Many people don't think, and they say, well, you just go to non-life-threatening calls. Well, the case is we average every day 2 chest pain patients that are actually taken to the hospital, verified by paramedics that they are having some kind of a cardiac event. For those in the audience that are looking, that median age is about 62 and a half years old. 54% of those are male, 46% female. And this is the key portion of having the EMS levy. The average time from the first ALS unit getting a call to being on the scene is 5 minutes and 10 seconds. Why is that so important? It's important for the intervening to be able to start the care of those patients. The paramedics apply 12 lead EKGs to rule out or confirm a heart attack, and they accomplish that in less than 10 minutes from the patient contact, 88% of the time. That's amazing in a community. And confirmation means early notification of hospital teams and quick access to cardiac cath labs. We're having cases now in our community in which our paramedics on the scene can identify a cardiac event, call an emergency room, the cath lab team is waiting for them when they walk in the door, and we've had people as quickly be in the cath lab and having procedures done within 45 minutes. That's unbelievable for our citizens in this community. So it's a very important service. We're proud of the service that the members of the organization provide. People always want to know what happens if it doesn't pass. Well, and this is nothing more than giving you the facts. We would lose somewhere between 70 and 90 personnel if the levy were not to pass. They would be laid off. We would no longer provide paramedic service. We would no longer most likely be involved in EMS service at any kind of advanced life support level. Numerous response units would probably be removed from service, and possibly station closures would occur. And of course, if we lose personnel, stations, and apparatus, our insurance rating would be impacted because we do not have any personnel that just provide EMS and don't also provide fire. So it's a dual role service, and it's a big bang for the bucks that our citizens pay. So in summary, EMS is an essential service to the community. We've responded to more than 20,000 medical incidents every year since 2005. This last year, we responded to over 33, almost 34,000 medical incidents. They've accounted for 80% of our calls since 2005. It helps pay for EMS services. It's been in place since 1988. It's been placed before the voters every year since 1980. And the rate continues to be the same as it was in 1992. And again, it requires 50% support to be approved. So the voting timeline is, if you put it on the ballot, the clerk will have to notify the county auditor no later than this Friday. And the ballots will start hitting the mail stream April 8th, 9th, and 10th. And everything has to be postmarked and/or returned by April 26th. So with that, I will certainly answer any questions that you might have.
Councilman Fagan.
Thank you, Council President. I just wanted to thank you very much, Chief, for including the information on the fire rating, because a lot of folks out there in the public do not understand or realize that the city's overall or geographic fire rating would also drive your homeowner insurance coverage. And considering what we are looking at for a monthly payment in $4 and change, I think that, when we didn't have Fire District 9 with EMS services a couple of years ago, we did get complaints from folks that resided in that area that they were looking at about a $350 to $450 increase in their homeowner insurance.
Very important fact,
it
Mr. Fagan, is you're exactly right. Most people don't remember, but we used to have, fire insurance is graded on a scale of 1 being the very best that you can have and 10 being no fire protection. The city of Spokane used to be a Class 2 city, and in the last time we were graded in the late 90s, we slipped to a Class 3 grading. The primary reason that occurred was because we had station closures, we had less apparatus on the street, we had less staffing. And certainly if something like this were to happen in which the levy were to fail and we lost that many personnel and that many apparatus and station, our insurance rating would be impacted, no question about it. Thank you for bringing that up.
You bet. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Thank you,
Chief.
Council President.
Really appreciate you being here, Chief. Mr. McGrath?
Council President, Council Members, George McGrath. The presentation by the chief, very impressive. The thing that bothers me a wee bit is that, as you saw, a great many of the people that the CMS levy is there to help are beyond 60 years of age. And for a great many of those beyond 60 years of age, if they are depending upon retirement benefits and Social Security or Social Security alone, and there is no increase in Social Security benefits, then as the property valuations are increased and increased and increased and increased, and in a 5-year time span, you can pretty much rest assured that there will be at least 3 increases, if not more. Then that 50 cents per $100 or 50 cents per $1,000 is going to start growing and growing and growing and growing. And I would just suggest that perhaps when it comes to this type of a tax levy, it's a flat tax. Whatever you're paying today is the same you will pay for the 5 years that this particular levy is in force. Something to consider.
Mr. McDowell?
Back in 2012, when I talked to Straub, I talked about 2006 and being slammed into the side of a police vehicle and then taken to the hospital. But in 2012, after I shook his hand, I knew more about what he was talking about with emergency response with the medics and such. I think EMS is continually over-transporting citizens, abusing citizens by writing false documentation to mental health records, forcing individuals against will. Back in 2012, I asked for a lawyer, and the EMS worker stated the only lawyer I was going to get was Matlock. They sit in the grocery store parking lots all over town and constantly waiting for these mental health calls. I'm asking now for mental health cognition testing standards and less spending for large corporations like AMR when they take advantage of civil liberties for profit at every turn. All clientele should have the option to audio recording. And back in 07, 08, I learned a lot about dialect in working at East Central Community Center. And I spent hours and hours working in the storage room to try to go over, what people were telling me and explanation and such. I think that we need more speech and hearing science dealing with mental health and redistribution of mental health outside of EMS. more counselors and people involved in communication. I worked with a supervisor and a coworker at East Central who couldn't, they didn't have the time or the understanding to break down what all the seniors were telling them. Some had the beginning stages of dementia and such. So it takes a lot of time to understand what the individual's saying. And that takes an individual in speech and hearing science with a little bit of counseling to understand what an individual's saying, or else you have for-profit strapping people down and miswriting on reports what they're stating, only that connect to the DSM type language to diagnose an individual. And so it takes time to listen and to communicate, and we need to take away oh, and one more thing, dealing with when I was stuck and locked down at the Carlisle, that EMS thing just goes up and down the hill nonstop all day and all night, and it's unnecessary, and they're making a killing there too. So we need more speech and hearing science in the mental health field, and to understand the individual, to get them out of harsh environments and things that are causing problems with cognition. Thank you for your time.
Mr. McDonald, with that, council commentary. Councilman Waldorf.
Thank you, Council President. I appreciate, Council President, you moving this forward. I think it's a good opportunity to get this out on the ballot. And I just wanted to make a comment that I think this is the first time that it's going to be on the ballot at the end of April. And we found out last year that a ballot at the end of the month is sometimes not on the top of people's radar. So just a note for the public to think about that this is a April 26th ballot, and hopefully those who are out there doing some education on this will remind folks, because it's normally we're used to voting at the beginning of the month. So just a thought, but I definitely support putting this on the ballot.
All right, can we take them both together? Everybody all right? Support one, you support the other? Prepare to vote. And 6-0, it'll be on the ballot, and we have an April election now. Excellent. Thank you, everybody. Resolution 2016-0022, Ms. Pfister.
Resolution 2016-22 regarding the City of Spokane's support for a Promise Zone proposal to HUD that is focused in the neighborhoods of Northeast Spokane, East Central north of Freeway, Chief Gary Park, Logan, Minnehaha, Bemis, Whitman, Nevada, Lidgerwood, and Hilliard.
Councilman Waldorf, you want to kick this off?
Sure. Thank you. And to the council, our earlier discussion, because we briefed the item today and we didn't brief it last week, the actual, what's in the packet is the current version, and so there's no changes that need to be made.
Okay.
So thank you, Ms. Pfister, for that clarification. So I just want to say a few words and then invite Mr. Wicks from Spokane Public Schools to come forward and elaborate a little bit on what is the zone and what is a promise zone. But I'll just tell you briefly that when Andre Wicks came into my office here at City Hall, I think it was September of last year, and we sat down and started talking about this vision that had started to come together with different partners in the northeast part of Spokane. It really got me excited. And the idea here is looking at an area that has some challenges, but has a lot of assets. And this is the northeast part of Spokane that Councilman Fagan and I represent. East of Division, north of I-90, south of Francis, to the city limits is kind of the area we're talking about. Some great neighborhoods with a lot of history, some challenges, but a lot of opportunities. We have the University District in this area. We have our Northeast Public Development Authority, the area just east of the tracks in Hilliard that has opportunities for growth and industry. We have some wonderful educational institutions like the community colleges, Gonzaga, Eastern, and WSU. And so we have a lot of opportunities and we have a lot of resources in our community. So Andre, if you come forward and talk about this vision of the zone is really a collaborative effort to increase job opportunities, housing opportunities, educational outcomes, and drive down crime in this part of our community. And we want to do that whether or not we become a promise zone, but we have an opportunity to apply to be designated as a HUD promise zone by the federal government, which would drive some more resources to this area. So I'm going to let Andre talk about the basics of what we're trying to do And then if Mr. Fagan wants to add anything, then we'll open it up for some comments from the partners who have come down here tonight to share with us what they've been working on.
Excellent. Thank you. Council President and Council, thank you for having us here tonight. I think the format we want to go through at the council meeting tonight is you did a great job of introducing the project. I'm going to give some additional context, but we also have some folks here tonight to give a little bit of testament in their support of the Zone Project and Spokane's Promise Zone proposal. So the first thing that I wanted to do is actually have those that are here stand so we could recognize everyone that's here in support. It's a small but mighty crew. It really is. It really is. We also have a couple of those folks who want to give testament, and then I think I will finish it off with additional context. Okay? So, who wants to go first?
I got Michelle Harris signed up, but anybody that wants to speak, you can have 3 minutes. Come on forward. I got Michelle Harris, Todd Milkey. Who else? Does anybody else want to talk? Mr. Henkel, you're just hanging out? You don't grace us with your presence that often. You should be speaking to him.
He normally has something to say, but he's reserved tonight.
All right. Good evening, Council President Steckert and City Council members. My name is Michelle Harris, and I'm the President of Workforce and Family Services for Goodwill Industries of the Inland Northwest, and I'm here to speak in support of the resolution to apply for a Promise Zone designation. Goodwill Industries helps people build independence within the communities we serve. Last year, we served over 6,000 individuals in 23 counties throughout eastern Washington and northern Idaho. Many we serve have physical or developmental disabilities, while others seek to overcome mental health impairments or lack work skills or history, a record of incarceration or homelessness. Still others are transitioning from dependence on public assistance to self-sufficiency. In calendar year 2015, Goodwill partnered with the City of Spokane, the Veterans Administration, Volunteers of America, and other community partners to successfully house 297 homeless veterans, 74 of those within the proposed Promise Zone boundaries. Working together, we can accomplish so much more to build a vibrant City of Spokane. A Promise Zone designation will provide the toolbox needed to move those efforts forward. We now face a make-or-break moment for the middle class and those trying to reach it. In the footsteps of a historic recession from which we are still fighting to recover, it is time to construct an economy that is built to last. Goodwill fully supports the Promise Zone's foundation of educating, innovating, and building. With this solid framework, federal resources can be targeted to the areas critical to growing the economy and restoring middle-class security, education and skills for workers and their families, employment opportunities, innovation, manufacturing, health and safety, housing choice, and infrastructure. Goodwill is honored to be an implementation partner for the Promise Zone, and I want to thank you for this opportunity to support the Promise Zone.
Thank you, Ms. Harris. Mr. Milkey?
Good evening, Council President and members of the Council. For the record, my name is Todd Milkey. I am the CEO of Greater Spokane Incorporated, speaking here tonight in support of Resolution 2016-22, the HUD application for a Promise Zone designation. We are a proud partner with the City of Spokane and School District 81, as well as other partners that you're going to hear from and hear about for this very unique opportunity. With the extension of the North Spokane corridor, there is a very unique opportunity for a holistic approach to community redevelopment in this area, comprising of the 6 areas that Andre referenced that you see on the board, which is education, economy, health, housing, safety, and residents' engagement. There are 2 specific areas the GSI, Greater Spokane Incorporated, hopes to assist in this effort. One is certainly with regard to education. We're currently leading a working adult post-secondary attainment initiative, which is trying to identify those people who started with post-secondary education, trying to get them to be in a position to be able to go back and finish that. So we are working with employers in the region to also assist their employees in going back and finishing that certification, that AA or bachelor's degree that they had started. We're supporting connections between educators and STEM employers, and we're committing to working with employers within the zone to partner with high schools and community colleges to access students for internships and work-study opportunities. In the area of economic development and jobs, there are a number of opportunities that I think the GSI stands ready to assist. And specifically, we will look forward to working with Goodwill, the Next Gen Zone, to incent businesses to offer employment to residents within the zone. We will advocate for changes to the Community Empowerment Zone legislation to have businesses that are modifying or expanding their facilities to hire from within the zone in order to receive the sales tax exemptions under that program. We're willing to and look forward to working with the city in identifying and developing potential funding resources for design and construction of infrastructure. We're going to host entrepreneurial events in the zone through our Startup Spokane program for those wishing that have that dream and want to convert that into a business plan. Certainly, we'll be marketing and promoting the assets and the infrastructure to targeted companies. We'll be looking to target companies that may be displaced by the build-out of the North Spokane corridor, and we'll be meeting with companies within the zone to learn about opportunities for expansion and retention for those businesses. So those are just a few of the areas that we look forward to assisting in this effort, and again, partnering with some great folks on a great, truly holistic approach to economic development. Thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Milkey. Appreciate it. Hold on, Mr. Henkel, because George was signed up, and since we started the public testimony, I know this, but you want to wrap it up, right, Andre? So, well, George, I'm not going to, you'll get your chance to speak. I just want to wait. I didn't know how Andre was doing this, but it might make more sense for Andre to do the wraparound and then have Mr. McGrath speak.
Sure. Tim, did you want to?
Tim.
Okay. All right.
You got me all out of whack, Andre.
I know. I'm sorry. I'm just testing you, you know. So when I was here about a year ago, presenting to council, the idea of the THEZONE Project was just really kind of starting to come together. The opportunity to apply for a Promise Zone designation we saw as an opportunity, not just as a means of providing what the community needs to start to turn the corner. But also as a means to help catalyze this work, as a means of bringing organizations together, to bringing sectors together, to challenge a community to start thinking differently and really consider what it means to be collaborative. At that time, it was a much less of a formal address, but I did want to take this opportunity to formally address you, President Stuckert, and the rest of the council. So I thank you for the opportunity to be here this evening. As I just said, just short of a year ago, I stood in this very spot seeking support from City Council for development of the THEZONE Project and for pursuit of applying for a Promise Zone designation that would be focused in the neighborhoods of Northeast Spokane. I really am amazed at how far this community has come in such a relatively short amount of time. The THEZONE Project, the driver of the Promise Zone application and subsequent proposal, which we plan to submit tonight, by the way, it's due tomorrow, so I'm nervous a little bit, you know, getting that in on time, but we do have a strong proposal. This is a place-based, holistic, and collaborative approach to supporting a community reaching its full potential and thriving. Solving complex problems takes complex solutions. In this case, it does take focused, holistic, collaborative, and intersecting solutions in education, job creation, economic development, housing, health, and crime reduction. The decision for the City of Spokane to apply for a Promise Zone designation has helped to catalyze the creation of multi-sector, multi-partner, multi-purpose goals and activities that utilize our community's most precious asset, its people, both organizationally and, more importantly, the citizens of the neighborhoods in the zone area. Regardless of whether or not a Promise Zone designation is awarded for the zone area, the work of creating a unified vision and development of strong partnerships as a result has resulted in a deep understanding of how an ecosystem thrives or dies. Our community is really beginning to understand the interdynamic and interdependent relationship we all have on one another. And from this day forward, we have a strong foundational plan from which to build. Our Promise Zone proposal is very, very strong, and we really believe that it's going to be competitive and a winning proposal. Thus far, over 300 individuals representing 75-plus organizations and the Whitman, Hilliard, Bemis, Logan, Minnehaha, Chief Garry Park, Nevada, Lidgerwood, and the north side of East Central neighborhoods have, for more than 15 months, spent in excess of 3,100 total man-hours researching, collecting data, and analyzing feedback, all in an effort to make Spokane as competitive as possible for this amazing opportunity. If designated, Spokane will gain access to a great number of financial and technical advantages and supports that will assist the community in reaching its goals more completely and more expeditiously. As a testament of the kind of commitment that's behind what could be one of the most historic achievements in Spokane's history, I'd like to quickly take a moment to publicly thank the people and organizations who have signed on as implementation partners. Better Health Together, Boys and Girls Club of Spokane County, the City of Spokane, our city prosecutor, Community Colleges of Spokane, Community Minded Enterprises, the Empire Health Foundation, Accelerate Success, Frontier Behavioral Health, Gonzaga University, Goodwill Industries, the Greater Hilliard Business Association, the Greater Spokane Association of Evangelicals, the Greater Spokane Incorporated, Habitat for Humanity, the Inland Northwest AGC, Juvenile Court, the local Inland Northwest Cooperative Foods, or Link Foods, Northeast Community Center, the Northeast Washington Educational Service District 101, ESD 101, organizations of Northeast Spokane, Project Hope, Spokane Area Workforce Development Council, City Council, Spokane Community Oriented Policing Services, or COPS, Spokane County United Way, Spokane Food Policy Council, Spokane Housing Authority, Spokane Low Income Housing Consortium, the Spokane Neighborhood Action Partners, or SNAP, Spokane Public Schools, the Spokane Regional Health District, Spokane Transit Authority, World Relief, and Youth for Christ. Over 36 partners, pretty significant. Lastly, I really do have to do this. I want to thank my wife and children. The last several weeks have been incredible, an incredible time commitment, but I'd be amiss if I also didn't thank two colleagues who have been very transformational and made a significant contribution to this plan that could transform the zone. Deanna Davis of Applied Insight and Katie Howard of Think, Right, Grow Consulting have been beyond instrumental in completion of what is really the beginning of this work. So I want to thank you so much for your selfless commitment. In closing, I have left project and contact information at the table outside the council chambers. I encourage anyone interested in learning more about the project and the Promise Zone opportunity to contact me. There's contact information out there. I believe that that is it as far as I'm concerned. I really am thankful for the opportunity.
Any questions for Andre? All right. Thank you, Andre, for all your hard work. Mr. McGrath?
Council President, Council Members, George McGrath. Another, as far as I'm concerned, pie-in-the-sky idea that the government's going to get involved with this at all levels. And gee, who's the government? Whose money do they spend? Ours, the taxpayers' money. And according to the sheet here, it says that the cost of doing this zone in some fashion or another, the City of Spokane and Spokane schools cost share the zone director role. Now, if this is a good role, well, we've got 29 different neighborhoods in the City of Spokane. Can all of them join into this and each have their own director, so that our tax dollars that go to the schools can then be diluted further for something that some people are going to benefit from? That doesn't mean that the average taxpayer is going to benefit from it. In fact, the opposite holds true. The average taxpayer pays for something that either directly, the way this reads to me, or indirectly when you start getting the federal government involved with it, and HUD and all the rest of these alphabet soups that the government puts out. So we have the idea of a zone. The way it sounds to me, that zone is going to be encompassing the Chief Gary neighborhood, probably. What else, I have no idea. But it's going to be basically District 1. And in District 1, you have, I don't know how many neighborhoods in the district, but probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 7 or 8. And each of these districts, I would think, has the right to request the same treatment that this zone thing is going to be. And from what I've seen in the past, every time you get the government involved with something, it's a total screw-up. It costs money, and then it costs more money. And then when it does not pan out, oh, well, let's come up with another project. So I would suggest that you take a very strong look at this idea before you do anything like voting for it.
Mr. Ben?
Well, I actually just came down to speak about the public safety for the kids in Cooper Elementary, as we're a low-income area, and we haven't got even school lights there yet. So I actually was kind of encouraged by the presentation that the lowest income community in the state, actually in District 1, is getting some attention. And I would hope that this council would work with that group of leaders, educators who know what the challenges are, and business leaders, those small businesses, that we would lift some of those burdens to employ those people and give them hope. Thanks.
Mr. Ben, with that, council commentary.
Oh, you bet. All right. Well, let's see. Been working on this particular project here for a little bit over a year. We've got pretty close to 40 very significant community partners that have come together. I'm definitely going to be supporting this because of the fact that it does provide promise. It provides promise to those folks in District 1 that both Amber and I serve diligently, and the fact that, you know, we know, as Tim Ben just pointed out, that that is one of the lowest income areas here in not only Spokane County, but statewide. This is an opportunity, I feel, that we're basically removing some of these traditional barriers that existed with nonprofit organizations dealing with the government, with for-profit organizations, businesses dealing with nonprofits, so that we can come together and, as much as I hate to throw this word out because it's been used a lot tonight, take a holistic look and an approach to solving some of the problems that we've had that have been long-standing in District 1. Now, unfortunately, we can't apply this to the whole city of Spokane because this is a zone, and through the discussion that we've had for a little over a year, we went ahead and made that determination that we were going to center that zone specifically in District 1 to pilot this program. Like I said, you know, during the open, that would be, I really, truly feel as though this program will bring a lot of promise to those that it is going to serve in District 1. You know, just looking at the example of some of the other things that the city of Spokane has done in pushing back against that status quo, if you will. You know, our integrated construction approach has really put the city in a position where we are becoming far much more efficient. And when we become efficient in our construction approach there, we're saving taxpayer dollars. And let's take the example of the Smart Justice Initiative that we've got out there, where we're trying to look at various aspects of our criminal justice and our law enforcement, applying reforms and studying some of the things that we used to do in the past. That is exactly what we're trying to do with this Promise Zone. Look at those things that we've done in the past, and again, buck that status quo, thinking way outside the box, And that's all the more reason to be supporting this resolution tonight.
Councilmember Waldorf?
Thank you very much. I just want to add a few more thanks and thoughts. So for folks who may be wondering, the Promise Zone program has been around for several years, and it's run out of Housing and Urban Development at the federal level. And so far, they've designated, is it 14, Andre? Or it will be 14 by the end of this year, I believe. Yes. So this is a very competitive process. And I think we've done everything we can here in our community to come together and put the numbers together and the strategies together for this to be successful, but it is very competitive. There'll be 5 areas nationwide that are designated. And so just to give context to this, and there's also tribal promise zones, and that's a separate but related program for tribal communities to also be able to apply to receive promise zone status. And the reason why that we chose this area, of course, is because of the poverty levels, because of the data that shows the need for more investment, higher educational outcomes. The Promise Zone kind of has a bar which they're looking for certain areas that would be eligible, and so this area definitely is eligible, and that's how we came to the decision to focus on the Northeast neighborhoods. It's also the feeder pattern. I don't know if Andre mentioned this. This whole area in the northeast part of Spokane, almost all those neighborhoods feed into Rogers High School. So it's, for Spokane Public Schools, it's nice to be focusing on an area of schools that feed into one of our high schools, so we can really work on those educational outcomes from kindergarten all the way through graduating from high school, and of course going on to our higher educational institutions as well. So that's just a little more background on it. For me, we've worked on lots of projects. We're known for having lots of plans here at the city, but what makes this really different is that you heard about all the organizations, so it's collaborative, and it's a long-term vision. This isn't going to be some grant that we write and gets accomplished in a year. The point of this is a 10-year plan and a bunch of strategies that can be developed and implemented over those 10 years to see long-term change. So that's, I think, what sets this apart from maybe other efforts and other strategies. A couple examples of some of the strategies that are in the proposal are taking the community court that we have at the downtown library. One of the strategies is to address getting folks back to work and addressing crime in a more holistic manner, is maybe replicating that community court in the northeast part of Spokane. So that's just an example of one of the strategies. So a lot of it is using what we're using already in other parts of our community and implementing it in a new and different way to address the specific needs in northeast Spokane. I want to give a couple more thanks, and then I'll be quiet. Senators Murray and Cantwell both wrote letters of support for the proposal, and I want to thank Gloria Ochoa from the administration for all her work from the mayor's office, and Dr. Shelley Redinger and the school board for their support of Andre and his position and all the work that he's done. So, and of course, to Andre and his family. So, thank you very much. I'm really excited that we can support this tonight.
Excellent. Prepare to vote. It passes 6-0. Excellent. Before we go on to the first reading ordinances, and then I have one person, I think, Andrew D., that wants to speak at the last open forum. On February 17th, we received a memo from Mike Piccolo, and we had been discussing this 3 weeks ago. And this is regards to the initiative that's up and to be on the ballot in November of 2017. And so Mr. Piccolo's memo read that the question in this memorandum is actually whether the petition sponsor can withdraw all the petition signatures prior to final verification. Given the court's position in State versus Hinley versus Superior Court of Spokane, the answer would be no. And then he goes on to conclude that it would seem that the council has little choice under the city code and is required to place the issue on the ballot. So I'd like to, rather than spending 4 hours next week on this issue, I would like to look for a motion to suspend the rules, add this to the agenda, and put it on the ballot tonight. So I'm looking for a motion to suspend the rules.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor of suspending the rules, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Rules are now suspended. We're looking for a motion to add Resolution 2016-0008, which is currently on the February 29th agenda, and move it to tonight's agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And with that, we now have a Resolution 2016-0008 on the agenda. I would just say that the memo that we got from Mr. Piccolo, which is why we deferred this for a few weeks, was as crystal clear a memo as you can get that says, due to the way the code is written and the state code is written, we're putting it on the ballot. There's not a real choice here, unless we want to pass it into law, which would reverse the decision of this body. So, any more discussion? Councilmember Waller.
I just wanted to thank Mr. Piccolo, and I appreciated about, was it 3 weeks ago, we asked for some more time to get some clarification, and I appreciate getting that, and I'm very comfortable with the information I received to vote to put this on the ballot.
Absolutely.
You need a motion?
No, I think we just vote.
Did you
But-
want me to read it first?
Yeah, we probably should read it before we vote on it.
Resolution 2016-8, requesting the Spokane County Auditor to hold a special election on November 7, 2017, in conjunction with the scheduled general election, to submit to the electors of the City of Spokane a proposition regarding an amendment to the Spokane Municipal Code relating to immigration status information, deferred from January 25, 2016 agenda.
And now, before Mr. Beggs, I will call public testimony. Now, Mr. Beggs.
I just wanted to note that I wasn't on the council when all this came up, so I probably know less about it. But it seems like the code needs to be updated to specifically point out that if somebody doesn't actually strictly follow all the requirements, signatures and things, then the council can keep it off the ballot. And I would like us, when we do that, to explicitly call that out.
We do have some changes we've been working on for about 3 months.
I've seen them, but I
okay.
want to call it out even more explicitly.
Okay,
The council
so
has the
if you
right
can get-
not to put it on.
If you can get Brian and I those changes, because council's taken it through 2 committees already, and we're at the point where Mr. Piccolo and Brian are working with the auditor. So if we have changes, you can get those to me as soon as possible.
One sentence, and I've
Okay.
spoken a
I
little
can
bit
work
with
quickly
Brian.
with you on that, absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
Great.
So.
Okay. Prepare to vote?
Hang on,
Great.
Council President.
bet.
Again, just as a reminder, according to the Municipal Code 0202-100, Section B, there's one of 2 things that we can do.
Pass it into law.
That is correct. So I would make a motion at this point that we go ahead and put it on the November 2017 ballot as you had indicated.
That's fair, because there is 2 choices. So looking to a second to put it in the November ballot 2017.
I'll second that.
Okay,
Thank you.
perfect. Prepare to vote?
Clear us.
Cleared. Now we prepare to vote. Oh, you snuck it in there. 6-0, it's on the ballot in November of 2017.
Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Mr. Fagan. Appreciate it. And now we are to no final reading. And Ms. Pfister, if you please read the first reading ordinances.
Ordinance C 35-362 relating to the multifamily tax exemption in the City of Spokane, amending Section 8.15.030 of the Spokane Municipal Code. Ordinance C 35-365 relating to the special events, amending Spokane Municipal Code Sections 10.39.010 and SMC 10.39.040. Ordinance C 35-367 relating to the regulation of for-hire vehicles at the Spokane Airport, and amending Section 12.03.0508 of the Spokane Municipal Code. Further action is deferred on the first reading ordinances.
No special considerations or hearings tonight. And did I have an Andrew D. who signed up? Sir, come on down. You got 3 minutes. Thank you for being here tonight, sir.
All right, councilmen and women, thank you for letting me address you. My name's Andrew D. Latour. I'm a member of the Local 14 Iron Workers here in Spokane, Washington. And I was privileged enough to work on a project for the city of Spokane at the wastewater treatment plant. You guys built a new tank out there, out kind of by the golf course. And we heard that there was going to be an expansion onto that plant to the tune of about $126 million, that it was going to be, there's going to be some more work done to it. And I found out that a couple companies that were awarded the contract through a joint venture, they're not really local companies, and one of the companies even has an office in Saudi Arabia, so it's really not local. And they're also they're not really union-friendly companies, and with a project that big of $126 million, I understand that'd be over a certain amount of time, so it wouldn't be that much money up front, but I guess I was kind of curious why certain companies, like the ones that placed bids for this, like Garco, Clearwater, and Cooney, they're all out of Spokane, and I understand how bidding works. You know, the lowest one is obviously the more attractive one, especially with a budget, but I thought maybe with a project this big, maybe a local company would have been a better choice, so that some of that money would have been funneled back to the community, or, you know, through them paying me to work there, as opposed to two companies that, closest one's in Southern Oregon, and the other one, it's got a Bellevue office, but it's also got a Portland office, an office in North Dakota, an office in Canada, an office in Great Britain, Saudi Arabia, the Philippines, and I can actually go on. So I guess I was curious as to why that didn't stay more local, to maybe benefit the community a little more.
If you would have been at Public Works today, this was a half an hour of the conversation. If you want to stay after, I'll address that. But just that same concern has been brought up. We've changed the law since then on alternative bidding contracts like GCCM, which is that methodology that we're using for that. We now can consider as a priority in the bidding. We can say that if they have an office in Spokane or not. So we've changed the law since that happened in order to address that exact concern. But then the bigger part of the conversation today at Public Works were that 60% of the, out of that $126 million project, 60% of that work is going to be done by subs. And there's 65 projects. And I'm in contact with a lot of the local shops, making sure that they get included on every single bid out for those 165 projects, or 65 projects that are going to combine 60% of the whole work so that they go to local subs. Because we all know that for every dollar spent on a local construction company, it stays here, 80 to 85% of that money stays here. But if we use a company that's in Oregon, that money just trickles out of our community. So with you 100%, and if you get me your contact information, I'll make sure you're included when we get when I get all the information on the sub stuff.
All right, thank you, sir.
Okay. Thank you for coming down this evening. Anything else, anybody? All right, thank you, everybody, and have a great evening. We are adjourned.